Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike.
Well, welcome everybody to the latest episode of Minutes with Mike. Today, my very special guest is Teja Urankar. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for inviting me.
Teja is the founder, CEO. She has so many titles. I'm going to see if I wrote them down because I don't want to miss it. Founder, CEO. She's a product developer, of course. She's also a chemist. So I can't wait to talk about all this as well. Her company is called Butter Be Kind, and we are going to jump right into it. Teja, start us off at the beginning. Where did it start? Where did your love of the actual product itself, creating a product, or the beauty end of things develop?
Oh, it actually developed very early on in my life. So one reason for my curiosity in science and cosmetics and product development actually came from my personal struggle with dermatitis and eczema, which I suffered from ever since I was born. And we were always trying to find solution that would help me basically cure that, or at least feel better in my skin. That is definitely one part that contributed a lot to my mission, personal mission, to find a solution for myself. And then the second reason was my grandpa and grandma. I grew up in Europe in a small country. And I spent a lot of time, like my first 5 years of my life, I spent with my grandma and grandpa a lot. And they had a huge garden. My grandma was drying all the herbs, and she always had so many explanations why a certain herb is good for. And she was doing this calendula balm. I grew up with the mindset of, oh, wow, you can actually make a lot of things from the nature work for your favor, right? You don't need, I never saw like strong additives or any preservatives and things like that. So that's the mindset I grew up with. And even though I went into science afterwards, it's still my mission to combine the both, nature and science, and see how can we bring the best out of everything when combining.
We have that in common. When I was talking to, we were talking as sort of the setup of the interview, I was asking you for different, talking points. You brought up the point about having the skin issues when you're young. And I too had eczema that was on the back of my arms and a little bit on my cheeks. And then when I had my children, my oldest son, it was so bad. And my wife would always give me a cross look. She's like, this is from your side of the family for sure. His cheeks were so red and raw, and you didn't know what to do with it. Like, they always felt like they were, a rash was breaking out. It always felt like there was nothing you can do as far as like applying stuff. We tried everything from, lotions and eczema creams to Vaseline to homemade remedies and all that stuff. So it's definitely something that a lot of people are dealing with.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah. So it starts with your grandparents and the garden, the herbs and all that stuff. But like, how did it progress into like the technological and chemistry end of things? You decided early that that's what you were going to go to school for, with the plan of maybe creating this sort of stuff, or you just had a love for that?
No, actually, so that's actually two things I was known for as a child. Was I was always obsessed with science. I was obsessed just with understanding how things work, how they are structured, what are the molecules, why does something have an effect on, I don't know, digestion, why does the chamomile have an effect on sleeping patterns and things like that. I was just so curious to understand, I guess, the biology and chemistry behind everything. And it sounds weird, but yeah, I actually went to study chemistry, actually biotechnology after. That was my main reason, just to understand life better. And as soon as I started studying, I still remember my first semester, we had this really deep dives into chemistry, analytical chemistry, instrumental chemistry. I was like, oh my God, if I can do all those things, I can probably, I can probably make a cream. I thought that should be simple. I always saw, my grandma was doing it. So how can I make it and make it better? Because growing up, one of main struggles was also, as a teenage girl, playing a lot of sports, but all constantly covered in rash. It really impacted my self-image. I guess when I started studying, I always just wanted to feel better in my skin. So that's when I started formulating. I didn't go to the university with the idea, okay, I'm going to go to university to start formulating. It just kind of came spontaneously. And then the first product I formulated, it was actually for Christmas in my first year of studies. And I had a roommate and I got this idea, let's do a little gifts for the whole family. You're a student, you're on a budget. So it seemed like a great idea. And everyone loved it. And also my skin, I don't think until that point I ever had a product that would actually calm down my skin. Even if it was just, we also did a soap back then. Um, it I felt, how I'm feeling better. The skin was soothed. So I was like, oh wow, maybe we're onto something. And we actually started, I started, she was there assisting me in our dorm kitchen. So it's a very startup story. For that part, I just fell in love with creating products. I thought, wow, this was so much fun and it actually works. My skin feels better. What else can we do? So I pretty much fell into the loop of just constantly formulating new and new products. I wasn't able to wear any even mascara, foundation, things that girls like to use, especially in their early 20s. I was not able to use any because they were all too aggressive for my skin. So I started formulating even makeup, everything that I was using, and still actually everything I'm still using, I formulate myself. And I just fell in love with the process of formulating. That's what I always say. I didn't think about having a career in skincare formulation or cosmetic formulation until COVID, pretty much.
Yeah, it's
So
funny because the mother of invention is always, coming up with a plan that starts with yourself, right? Like having to deal with all these issues before you know it, you're already probably knee deep in creating something that you could wear. And then the day comes where you find out like, hey, I'm not the only one that has to deal with this sort of thing. It's a lot of other people. But what I was dying to ask you is, so you're on this path, this chemistry, biotechnology, you're on this very educational path, probably to do formulations or somehow create a career around that. And you decide to shift a little bit and become an entrepreneur, right? Like to think about that, like what could be harder than going to school for that type of work? I know I'll start my own company with my own products. How did that shift happen?
it was a big shift. And to be honest, I didn't realize how big of a shift it is until I actually started my company. I thought in theory, it seemed really simple. I had a great product. I had a great formulation that I was 1000% standing behind. And I thought, how hard can it be? You launch the line, you have the products, you have the documentation, you have everything. So, well, that's it. You just need to sell. But I never, again, and I always say I learned everything about business and entrepreneurship from scratch. I never had a course on sales. I never had a course on marketing. I didn't even have Instagram until I started Butter Be Kind. So my scientists, most of my friends are scientists, and they're still, you're on Instagram. They still can't believe it because it's a very different world. So yeah, it was a big shift. I guess the trigger that COVID brought to all of us, to some of us more, to some of us less. I was working in the pharmaceutical industry when it happened, when it started. And it was a very stressful environment to be in. It just made me kind of rethink everything that I'm doing, knowing that how fast things in life can change and how fast things can change because of something
Yeah.
we don't have control over, right? And I thought, oh my God, like I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 2 years or 5 years or what, 10 years. I had no idea. So I really felt like someone was squeezing me into a corner of the room. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. So I quit my job. It was a big decision. And if you ask my family, it was a
I
crazy
was gonna
decision.
say, it was sort of like, wait a
um,
second, what?
yeah. And until probably a year ago, everyone thought that I would be better off if I stayed in my pharma job because, well, yeah, it was safe. It was, you had a paycheck. It was safe. That's
It's a great story. And you know, in talking to so many people and being in this industry for 35 years, people that are successful at it have one thing in common, right? They believe in themselves. They believe in their product or products. They believe in their mission. And I'm sure you've heard 100 times, probably yesterday, you know, people being like, you're crazy. Don't do this. Don't do that. You know, losing money, wasting money, like all that stuff. But being centered and focused and trusting yourself and your intuition takes you to that next level.
Yeah, I think one of the, or actually the main thing that is still driving me forward and keeping me on track is just I believe in my products so much, and I have so much passion for Butter Be Kind and in general for just bringing better skincare to the world. I think that's what's fueling me because everything else, I mean, there's so many challenges with so many different things, but that's kind of one thing that is pushing me forward.
How did you come up with the name? Curious.
Oh, that I get that question a lot, and I just love wordplays. So I was trying to come up with something that would sound a little bit more light, a little bit more joyful, because all the skincare out there, it usually has a name that is either very scientific or super random. And I wanted something that's reflecting one of our values, which is kindness. And one day, I was just like out loud brainstorming and repeating different words. I got the idea, what if we implement one of the ingredients into the name? So I was like brainstorming butter and kind, butter and oil, butter be kind. And then just at one point, butter be kind slipped, out of me. It's like, oh, wait, what was that? And so that's how the name came to be. And I thought it was really nice because, first of all, we do use shea butter a lot for our products because it's great for sensitive skin. And then, second of all, better be kind is something that I think kindness is underrated in this world. If we were a little bit kinder, not just to the other person, but also to yourself and also to the nature, just to have a little bit broader vision of it's not just me in this world, but there's other people, but then there's also animals, there's nature, there's our whole planet. Um, and I thought, well, we can really build something great on this. I love it. I mean, most people at one point start calling it BBK because it's it's
That's
shorter.
cool.
But yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's this world post COVID. I think you hit it on the head. I think people have shifted a little bit, and you see, you know, industry leaders like Gary Vaynerchuk and the fellows over at Beekman. They talk about just that kindness factor that maybe had been in the backdrop all along as people develop companies and entrepreneurs and big companies and small companies, but bringing that to the forefront, how you treat employees, how you treat your customers, how you treat each other, I think
Yeah.
is a real nice buzzword nowadays. And I love the fact that it's really becoming popular and people are focused on
Yeah, I like that
it.
too.
I know you did 10 years of research. I was reading your website and looking for some of the different videos that you posted. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I know that you did 10 years of research, prior to launch, and your products are 100% natural, cruelty-free, vegan, and free from irritants. So tell me about that whole science-based, 100% natural. Of course, that's a powerful claim, and it separates you from a lot of other brands. Talk to me a little bit about that and how you formulate, how you develop, knowing that mindfulness, that's one of your core values as well, that mindfulness plays a part in that.
Yeah. So going into it, and when I started formulating, let's start there. I was actually trying to reverse engineer products that are already on the market. So let's say I took a cream that was good for sensitive skin, eczema, and I was looking at the ingredients and looking into how can we make this less irritable? Is that a word? Yeah. Sorry. Irritating. No. Yeah. Anyway, so better for sensitive skin, not causing any additional inflammation. And then how can we make it more sustainable? How can we make it more vegan? How can we make it better in all the aspects? Not just taking into consideration, okay, we want it to be effective, we want it to be sustainable, but we want it to be, I mean, that's one of my big values, is that the product is sustainable, so that the ingredients are, sustainable, meaning good for the planet, whether it means that we're upcycling one of the ingredients that would otherwise go to waste or something similar. The thing about me is that I know exactly how the synthetic ingredients are made in the lab, and I know how heavy on the environment that is. And I think a lot of, I mean, probably most of the consumers, even people that are working in the lab, they usually don't even see that picture of how much of really harsh chemicals goes into the environment just to produce that one synthetic ingredient. And that's something that I was trying to avoid, knowing that my grandma had those herbs that were working. And one of my main questions, and I still ask myself that question, is how can we make what we have in nature more efficient? And that's where biotech comes into play, because biotechnology is pretty much, okay, depends which part of biotechnology, obviously. The part where I use biotechnology is making what already is present in nature, making it more available for the skin to absorb. We call that bioavailability. And that's what's actually special with our products is, and that's why we can say that they're 100% natural, because every single one of the ingredients is derived from a natural source. We don't go into the lab and produce a synthetic ingredient that is molecular wise same as the one from nature, but we actually take it from the nature and use it. And yeah, so let's say our body scrub, it has upcycled cranberry seeds, which means that there's a lot of producers of cranberry juice, as you can probably imagine. And cranberry seeds are actually a byproduct. But cranberry seeds are a great ingredient for sensitive skin because they're so gentle, they have a lot of antioxidants and bring a little bit more of the protection for the skin. So that's what we're using in our scrub. And that's what I mean when I say sustainable, is the ingredient that would otherwise land in trash, we can still make use of it, right?
You bring a very unique perspective, because as you were talking, I was trying to run through my brain about, do I know another person that's a founder of a company that also is embedded in the formulation, how it was created? So everything from how it was named to the ingredients that go into it, to creation of the products, to the marketing of the products, you have a hand in all of that. But it brings a unique perspective to what, a lot of people will claim they are 100% natural. They'll claim that it's free from irritants. But if you press them on it, if you ask them questions specific to the ingredients, there's a little bit of this, or, somebody in a lab created that. But you created these things. So it's really nice.
Yeah, they're my babies. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's true. I never really saw that side. I always thought, well, for me, it was just, I took it for granted that I'm the chemist and the creator of the products. And then getting to know other brands, I realized that no, a lot of them don't even know the ingredients they are using and marketing. But I guess because there's so many brands out there and because there's so much information, it's really hard for us to, sometimes I need to repeat like 5 times, I'm the chemist, I'm the formulator. And then after the 5th time, the person goes, oh, so you made them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't look like a chemist, but, I should be walking around with a lab coat.
Originally, you developed it outside the U.S. and then you brought it to market in the U.S., right? Tell me about some of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
challenges in launching abroad and then, sort of adapting to the US standards or creation of the brand as it approached the US.
Yeah. So one thing that was good for us is European standards are much higher, or let's say not standards, but requirements for cosmetic products are much higher than the ones on the US market. So that's one thing that I would say was easier for us. But definitely what no one tells you about is the US market is, I mean, coming to the US, we knew that the market is much bigger, but we didn't know how much bigger it is and how important it is to, have the network, to have also people like you at PIMS, to just help you with fulfillment. And I mean, we're still figuring out that part, by the way, because we had some other setbacks. But joke aside, no, it's really it's a lot. And I thought the transition would be much more smooth than we expected. But yeah, it's a big learning process for
I'm
us.
sure.
But definitely just regarding that's what I always say is for me, the product part is the most simple. The taking care of all the regulations, requirements. I, I feel I feel very confident in that part. Everything else we're figuring out as we go. Yeah.
I think originally it was kind of built as an online first type brand, right? So I wanted to get your take as the direct to consumer approach versus retail, or a mix of the two, or what sort of your plans are on a moving forward basis to sort of engage both those. TikTok Shop is something we hear every day where people are
Yeah.
creating, developing the marketing around that because the uniqueness of that opportunity people don't want to miss out on. Maybe you could talk a little bit to that as to, where your focus has been, what you think is going to work well for the brand and your team.
Yeah, it's very interesting because in Europe I mean, obviously we have a lot of online stores, but I think the consumer is still not as online as they are in the US. Let's say TikTok Shop, we don't have that in Europe. There's TikTok Shop in the UK, but not the rest of Europe. And we haven't started our TikTok Shop until 2 weeks ago, actually, the way we were approved. So yeah, the opportunity to grow online is really unique, I think, especially in the United States. Yes, we started off as an online brand. I bootstrapped the business at the beginning, so I didn't. I mean, I had the funds, but I didn't want to throw everything into marketing.
Sure.
So I was very mindful of how do we spend those euros or dollars that we're investing. I still am, but back then I really didn't want to just, experiment with Google ads or Facebook ads. So that's also why you see so much of me on all the social media, because I realized that if we want to do marketing, that's not going to cost us a lot of money. I need to stand in front of the camera and just do content. And that's how I started doing content. And then I started enjoying doing content. So, which is great.
It gets addicting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And then you see a trend and you're like, oh my God, I should do that. So now obviously the strategy has changed a little bit. We started also investing a little bit about in the ads, especially on TikTok, because the model is so interesting. And I feel like TikTok is really doing great job at making it attractive for brands and the creators that are on TikTok. So I think they're onto something. Let's see.
One of the things I think I also read on an article about you was, did you just do a pop-up in Soho?
Yeah,
That's
that
trending
yeah
too. Like that's becoming all the rage where people are doing these pop-up little shops. So tell me about that.
yeah. Actually, we don't have a pop up culture in Europe. I actually did a pop up before coming to the States. I think it was end of 2023. We did a pop up in my home country, in the capital, and we had like maybe 10 people show up. And I was actually mad because most of my friends are there, most of my family is there. It was like you could at least come, for a coffee. And then we had two sales. My mom and my friend's mom, they bought products. And I thought, and I was standing there for 8 hours. I mean, I enjoyed it. You know, you talk to people, you still get to share about the products. We did some content in between, but I it's a very different experience than and then we got the opportunity to do the first pop-up in Soho end of September last year. We didn't do any advertising whatsoever. We just worked with one influencer here in New York and we had a line around the block in Soho. And it was our first pop-up.
That's awesome.
Or what it is, like what is
Yeah.
that, right? That one moment, and I'll never forget that, it just showed me how much more curious people here are to try also new things, you know? And also I feel like we got a little bit more recognition on, oh, they're actually natural. And they actually cared that there's a chemist standing behind the brand. Obviously, there's also a lot of influencer brands, which people love. But again, and that was also the point where we started getting more traction in the US. We started getting also more inquiries and things just started to, and then we did more pop-ups. We just had one last week in Philadelphia.
And
We're having
what's
that
great about that too, knowing that it didn't go well the first time you did it,
was awful.
sort of, I'm sure as it was leading up to the second one, everybody was like, oh my God, more than 2 people better buy this product. But you were probably completely freaked out, right? And the success of it led to the next one and the next one and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the one in New York, the first one, I remember even the evening before, I was like, if 20 people show up, I'm going to be so happy. And we had like 200 people show up. I was like, oh, wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the hospitality end of things. I know that you're working with hotels and spas as sort of a partnership. How did that develop, and how does that sort of help guide you towards the next steps with them as well?
Yeah. So that's actually something we put a little bit on pause just because there's not enough of us in the team. But it's definitely still a goal to expand on that because there's so much opportunity there. I actually started that as a pivot in the first year because it was so hard for us to get traction online, to get people to get to know us. So I was trying to think, how can we bring more traction into the company? And one of the ideas that I got was every time I was going to hotels, I wasn't able to use any of the products just because they would irritate my skin, right? So I thought there's so many cute little boutique hotels that are very about a lot of that are very cautious about like sustainability and natural ingredients and things like that. So I thought, okay, what if I approach them and just offer better products for their hotel and their customers? And some of them really loved the idea. So we started working with them, which helped us in the first year to get also some recognition, but also, just to keep the company growing.
I know it's sort of, it's this part of the marketing world you're just entering now, but obviously with PIMS and, our stake in influencer marketing and fulfillment that we do for you and other clients, we always ask, or I like to ask, philosophies on what you feel about that whole sort of outreach or sending products out to influencers to get those brand reveals. The reason I ask is, again, perusing through your website, I saw that customer satisfaction and feedback from your customers, feeling this. One of your signatures is the feeling butter, right? I saw somebody post on there, you put a quote on there that said it's like touching a cloud, right? And feedback from your customers or these influencers in eventuality will lead to the next opportunity. Tell me about, in the days ahead, what is your plans for marketing to these influencers? How important is their role in, bringing new opportunity to you, new customers to you? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's, again, as you said, that's something we actually just started with and just started exploring. I think we still have a lot to improve on that. We started with some smaller creators right now, and the packages are, I would say, not that well curated in terms of the unpacking experience. And that's something I talked about with one of your teammates as well. But yeah, it's so important. I had no idea how important it is to work with creators and influencers. But then again, I was trying to understand why are the creators so important. And then I saw myself scrolling TikTok and buying a product because I saw someone else use it. I didn't know that person, but I saw the way she's showing it and I was like, oh, wow, this looks nice. I really need that planner.
Yeah.
I bought it, you know? So, well, and that's when it clicked for me that, we just enjoy seeing other people use something that we might need or not need, but just looks nice. So I think it's a very, very powerful technique. And for me, one of the main wishes that I have at this point, also with the creators that we're going to work together with, is to build a relationship. I know it's about sales in the end of the day, but I really want to have creators that are passionate about Butter Be Kind, that can imagine working with us for a longer period. I think that's something I would wish to have, like also a sustainable maybe relationship, not just a one-time thing and let's make great sales and move on, but really to build on
Great.
that.
That's a great point. You know, beauty has shifted, right? Because, I'm 58 years old, I'm Gen X. And when I was little, there was different kinds of beauty for my grandmother than there was for my mother. And there was different kinds of beauty for my mother than there was for my sister, right? Depending on which generation you were, you use certain brands and certain products. And people would refer to that as grandma stuff or that's little kid stuff. That shifted, really. It's really changed 100%, where, you see one generation and the next using the same products, maybe for different reasons, but using the same products. The same could be said for, skincare. There used to be stuff for babies, and then there was stuff for men, and then there was stuff for women, and then there was stuff when you get older, and this is specifically for that. Now that's been kind of muddled too, as brands are really creating their products to, from birth to 900, however old you are, you can use our products successfully. Do you focus on like a Gen Z or a millennium, or are you just sort of like, I'm making this for women, or this is for everybody and here's why? Tell me your feelings on that.
Oh my God, I hope no one from marketing is listening to this. No, I'm kidding, but I always say that our products are for everyone. And then everyone in marketing says, you can't target everyone. So I get that. But if I look from a chemist perspective or the formulation perspective, I I'm a big believer in less is more. Less ingredients, but better ingredients that make the product work. And when you look from the perspective of just skin structure and biology, if you take good care of skin, if you don't saturate it with really harmful ingredients and just ingredients you don't know, then there's no reason that your skin would go through, this huge damaging process or however that is called. So I think I forgot what your question was.
Yeah, I was just
But
curious, like, in a nutshell, when you're creating these ingredients to create whether it's an existing product or one that's still to come, in your brain, are you like, okay, this is going to be for an older generation, this is going to be,
oh
or
yeah.
is it something you're like, everybody's going to be able to use this, so I'm going to use these specific ingredients so that it's good for everybody?
Yeah, no, okay, that's a great question. Actually, yes, I do. I Every time I formulate, and that was since I started, I was doing that subconsciously. I was asking myself, what is gentle enough that I would give to my teenage daughter, let's say. Yeah, that's the starting point. And the only reason for that is what is the difference between, because I think the main difference in skin is actually children and teenagers versus adult life. And when you're adult, it doesn't really matter if you're 20 or you're 80. Your skin needs the same ingredients, maybe when you're 80 a little bit more of some of them to I don't know, like collagen or more hydration, whatever, depending on the skin again. But if you look at the skin of kids, I would say at about until about 13 years old, 13, 14 years old, their skin barrier is not built out or completely built out. Yeah. So their skin is more prone to any kind of like breakouts. It's absorbing more of everything that's good, but also everything that's bad for the skin. So I think the most damage is done in those years. And there's, I think, one gap in the market right now that is exactly those girls. That also one of my best friends, she has a girl, she's now 10, she's going to be 11 years old now. And she's bombarded by products everywhere she goes, everywhere she looks. So she now has her phone. She's constantly sending me screenshots and she's like, is this good for me? No. Is this good for me? No. And then she's like, but come on, the packaging is so cute. It's like, yeah, but it's not good for you. So at least she has me and she really trusts me and she really respects everything I say. So I think a lot of damage is done in those years. And I always look at the products. I'm like, okay, what would I give to, or let's say I call her my niece, even though she's not blood related. What would I give her to use? And I know it's also going to be good for her mom. So they can both use it. Because that's also a thing, the just doing skincare together. I know I never had that with my mom because that was not the culture. I feel like now we're more stepping into the culture of doing something with your mom, or I do like skincare night with your mom. And that's where I'm coming from. I never look at, I know that if it's going to be good for her, it's probably going to be good for her mom. And even if I do use active ingredients that are, let's say, bringing more glow, more elasticity, those should be safe enough for my 11-year-old niece to use as well.
You are wearing so many hats, right? You're a woman founder, mother, chemist, marketer. You're doing it all there. One of the things that I was really intrigued about was, and people are petrified to do this, and we talked a little bit about it at the start, is getting in front of a camera, right? They say that public speaking, people are more afraid to do that than to die, right? Like they're petrified of it. But if I go to your website, and there you are in video after video after video, holding up product, talking about packaging, sustainability, all these core values that you hold true to your heart. You also were a podcaster or are a podcaster. So do you find any one of those verticals pays, like which one do you think accomplishes your message better or best?
Which one of the parts
think
of the content?
videos, a lot of people do those reels now where it's quick and easy. They do a 45-second or a minute long. Which one do you think has the most powerful message? Is it the written form? Is it video? Is it audio? Is it podcasting? Tell me what you think is your.
To be honest, I think the conversation that we're having right now, I think that's something that brings most value. The reels that we're doing that because we need to. But if it was up to me, every single reel would be at least 3 minutes long, and I would be talking more in depth about things that we're talking about today. So yeah, I think podcast is a very powerful, especially also long form content. I don't know if this goes on YouTube or not. But that is where real value is built. And I think on social media, Instagram, TikTok, it's fun. It's great. But I don't think there's, you don't have the time in 45 minutes to go super deep into something. And if someone has a question, they see your video, they have a question, they forget it in the next 5 seconds because they're going to see another video. So
Good point.
Yeah.
So let's talk about looking ahead. Like, what are your biggest, you've come a real long way in a very short time. And I'm sure I'm going to be reading all about you as the company continues to soar and do great things.
Thank you. That's the plan.
What's your immediate goal? Like, what's the next 6 months, year, 5 years? Where do you want to be? What's on the horizon for Butterbean Kind?
We're definitely focusing on the US market right now, just because we see so much potential here and there's so many people struggling with exactly what we're addressing, including sensitive skin, and scaling our TikTok shop, going on Amazon, and also into some retailers at the beginning of next year. So we have pretty big goals, and I think they're really possible for us to achieve, but it's just a lot of work. Yeah.
Sure it is. I wish you all the success in the world. As we close out, I wanted to ask you, there's probably going to be a lot of people that would love to be in your shoes, right? Maybe they are on the professional side and they want to get into this whole beauty and wellness and skincare world, or they are in the midst of it themselves, but they're getting bombarded with negativity or things aren't going as well as they had hoped they planned. What would you say the most valuable lesson is as you continued on this journey? And you're still so young, like you still have so far to go, but you've done so much in just a short time. Like, what can you tell somebody watching this about your journey and maybe a barrier that you climbed over that sort of helped you along the way?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're just getting started, first of all. I never see whatever we've achieved so far. I don't see it as a success. I'm very grateful for it, but I think, it's just stepping stones towards what's the end goal. But for anyone starting, or even for anyone who just still stuck, I know that, okay, one is obviously to have some skills, to have that passion. That is so important. But then also to have mentors. I think that is something that's not spoken enough about. And with mentors, I don't mean books or podcasts. They're great because they're going to inspire you to take some action. But to have a mentor that's actually going to walk with you. I know that there were so many moments for me, and still are, by the way. I just had one of those yesterday, where you're completely stuck, where you're in a situation that you've never been in before. And I know for myself that for some of those situations, it would probably take me months to even realize that, oh, I can come out of this. And with mentors, someone who can give you that guidance, it can go so much quicker. And also just from the perspective, like I said, I never went to business school. I'm learning it by
Ah,
doing it, which is great. But again, I still do mistakes I hopefully not every day, but often, right? But I know that even that whole business side, I have my mentors and they're helping me so much to understand just the processes, the legal parts. Sometimes I don't even know if you have an issue with something, you don't even know who to call. Do you need a lawyer for that or do you need a dentist? Okay, that's a bad example, but that is so valuable. And that's something I actually would never think about. But I was lucky enough I found my mentors before I started my business a few months before. So I was very lucky about that. And then the second thing, I'm sorry, I know you said one thing, but the second thing is definitely network. And that's something I underestimated a lot because I was in my life before Butter Be Kind, I was very introverted. I was spending 8 to 12 hours per day in the lab. So I was just like, don't talk to me. Yeah, I was a very different
put on the
person.
white coat and tune
So
out, right?
yeah, and but I was just so closed, within myself. That was not my true nature. I feel more myself now than I ever had. But yeah, and my network really consisted of, it still does, a lot of scientists, which are great people. But if you want to build, you need the right people to not necessarily help you, because that's also one thing I think we do a lot. It's just, okay, what is in there for me, right? But the second is, what can I give? What value can I give? Can I say something valuable on this podcast that someone
Right.
else is going to,
It's
find
that whole
valuable?
feeling of community too. We get that a lot. That was something again, years ago. If you found out a way to beat the other guy, you kind of held it to yourself. Now, founders like you are sharing all the time, not only on Minutes with Mike, but everywhere I go. Every networking opportunity I see, people are sharing the good times and the bad times. And don't do that. You
Yeah.
should do this. And here's where I failed. And here's where I did. Here's how many times I fell before I got back up, right? Like, it makes people feel like, A, they're not alone. B, maybe if he or she can do it, so can I. And C, saving them the torment, the opportunity to sort of walk around some of these potholes versus going through them. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So if I can make it, then
here we
anyone
go.
can. Because I had zero idea about business. So,
Where can
and still work in progress.
where can I find Butter Be Kind if I wanted to order product, or do you have another pop-up shop coming up? Like, where can I find your product?
We
Okay,
do.
great.
So our website is the place to be. It's butterbekind.co. We are very active on Instagram and TikTok. just butter be kind and you'll find us. And we have two pop-ups coming up. One is going to be on the 25th of July in Soho. And the second one is going to be on the 2nd of August in Brooklyn.
I'm making notes.
And then
I'm
hopefully
probably
more
going
to
to be at
come.
both or one of them, but for sure I'm showing up.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna write you the
Great,
address and
great.
everything.
Teja, thank you so much for joining us here on Minutes with Mike. We wish you a lot of success. Here at PIMS, we're very proud to say we see nothing but great things to come for you. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for great questions and thanks for inviting me and just giving me the opportunity to share the story.
Thank you.
Thank you.